Welcome, everybody, to Firehouse Talks with Jersey Rick, Igniting Leadership Excellence. I'm Rick, and this is my co host, Emily.
Hello, exciting to be back. I can't believe we're already on episode 10.
I know, episode number 10. Are you gathering followers or developing leaders? So that's the question that we are asking here in this episode, and we are going to discuss that.
Yeah, so let's just dig right on in. So, is there a difference between the two and does it matter?
There is a difference between the two. There is a difference between gathering followers and developing leaders. The people who gather followers, typically, you'll see them, they're the kingdom builders, they're egotistic, they don't want to have any threats. So they like to have their following behind them, just tagging along. They generally can put on a pretty good show too.
Yeah.
Emily, I'm sure you've seen this, especially when you were working in human relations, not only to people
Hmm.
that you came in contact with daily, but others and things that you heard,
Yeah.
throughout the city.
Very like
And
charismatic.
very charismatic. They put on a good show for the boss and for others. And in my book, The Furnace of Leadership Development, I referred to those type of people as the Pied Piper of popularity.
That's a bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah.
So they have their favorites and they know how to manipulate the unsuspecting.
That's right.
I guess I've
They have
I've
their
experienced
favorites.
that firsthand.
Yep, they have their favorites, and typically you'll hear them referred to as the good old boy network.
Yeah.
And I've got another name that we tag the people we'll discuss later on with that. But yeah, they got their favorites because they know that these people are following them like a puppy dog.
Mm.
Follows a little boy around. And they're looking for people essentially just to kiss their rear ends and prop up their little kingdom, bow down to them, kiss their rings, and that sort of
Yeah.
a thing.
I've seen this type of person kiss the rear end of their bosses and agree with them face to face,
Mhm.
but then change their tune behind the boss's back.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. The boss thinks these people are great. Oh, they're fantastic. This is one of the best people I've ever had working for me. This is the best person in this position ever. You can't have a better person, than this. And then they get done praising them, they walk out the room, and then that person is stabbing the boss in the back. It's a complete and total show.
Lack of
And
integrity.
yeah, lack of integrity. And they're threatened by people who know more than they do.
Mm,
And they will take steps to undermine and torpedo those people. If somebody's not following them, somebody's not kissing their rear end, and somebody knows who they really are. Okay, depending on the position that person is in, if they're over the individual who knows the truth, then there could be some real problems there as well.
so, what happens when one of their devoted followers learn the truth? And in this way, I'm thinking of like in the Matrix, where you take the red pill and you get awakened to what's really going on in the world. So, this devoted follower took the red pill on who their uh, prince
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were following is.
yeah. So this is what I have seen over the years, Emily. When someone learns the truth, they see through that facade of the Pied
Mhm.
Piper of popularity, and they no longer follow them. Sometimes they have to work for them just by virtue that individual is the boss. Well, way too often, the person who has discovered the truth is tagged as the troublemaker.
Mm,
They're not on board with the organization. You used to be on board, but I don't know what happened here now. You're hanging out with the wrong people. You're being swayed by, the individuals in the department who aren't on board, or in the division that aren't on board, or in the business who aren't on board. They're very good at manipulation
yeah.
and twisting and turning things. Very similar to what we see in politics today. If you don't go along with the with what the regime says, whether the regime is at the local level, county level, or federal
Yeah.
level, it gets twisted, and the good people all of a sudden are looking like they're bad. And then what happens too to that person who learns the truth is that individual who's the Pied Piper of popularity will do what they can to undermine
Yeah.
that individual. And if they're further up in the hierarchy in the chain of command, they can create a lot of problems for the people who know the truth.
They'll do anything to keep that crown
Yes.
of
Yeah.
control.
Absolutely.
And I think piggybacking on that too is that the person who learns the truth of who they truly are becomes a threat.
Yes. Yeah. They don't want threats.
Mm-mm. But I would like to add that this can apply not only in a work situation, but in any of our life situation,
Yeah.
relationships, church, workplace,
Mm-hmm.
families, dynamics, like anything. And when you're learning the truth, like there's a Bible verse in John 8, it says like the truth will set you free.
Mm-hmm.
You'll know the truth and the truth will set you free. So I think for those who have maybe been following their Pied Pipers and are coming to learn the truth, just to cling on to that verse and know that truth always stands more than control and
Yeah.
manipulation.
Truth always
Even if it
stands.
means that you're losing some things, it's worth it in the
Yeah.
end.
And this is where we really find out the true character of the person who knows the truth or who has discovered the truth just recently is, are they going to do what is right? Are they going to maintain their integrity? Because maintaining your integrity, and we've talked about this in a couple of the previous episodes, you can wind up paying for maintaining your integrity.
Yeah.
And so people who have the courage will do that regardless of the consequences that come down to the pike. And listen, folks, I'm not talking about being a rabble rouser, being insubordinate or so forth like that. I'm talking about standing for what is right. And then when you do find the Pied Piper of popularity, who's the manipulative individual, who's not developing leaders, who's threatened by other people, do your best to avoid them because they're toxic, they're corrosive, and they are no good to anybody. And the people in the lower ranks, I've seen this over the years, say, why aren't they doing something about that guy? Well, they're not doing something about that guy because they've all got the veil pulled over their eyes because that particular individual has fooled them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Like they put them under a spell.
Yeah.
So I'm sure these kingdom builders, and I'd like to just clarify kingdom, they're building their own kingdom,
Correct.
purely
Mm-hmm.
selfish for their own good,
Mm-hmm.
building themselves up,
Yes.
are not willing to put the time and effort into developing other leaders.
Yeah, they are not willing to put the time and the effort in the development. Frankly, they're not a leader themselves. They
No.
fall more into that category of a manager. Yeah, and in a previous episode, we talked about that. We talked about managing people is bad for morale. So they're
Mhm.
managers. Now they might go out to the various classes and so forth, and stack up a file full of certificates and say, I've been to this one, I've been to that one. But that, just because somebody sits in a class doesn't mean that they learn anything. Hey, frankly, I'm thankful for the people who listen to the podcast here, but in reality, there will be people who listen to this podcast who this particular topic applies to them, and they'll get done and say, well, I'm glad that ain't me he's talking about. And yeah, and they'll move on. So yeah, we got to absorb it and we have to be willing to change and
And
to
apply it.
listen. Yeah, and apply it. So on the good end, on the other end, the good end of the character scale are those leaders who beget and develop other leaders. These are the people who are not threatened. These are the people who understand the importance of developing people. These are the people who will reach out to the people alongside of them, the people who are coming up behind them, and share with them. It's like we talked about before as well, is a pitcher of water. If you keep pouring the water into the pitcher, it starts to overflow and it does no good to anybody. So we have to pour out. And that's the same thing with us. As we are absorbing, whether that be through listening to podcasts, reading trade journals, books, listening to audio books, which, hey, I'll plug the Furnace of Leadership Development, which is now on audio book that you can get by going to Amazon. So yes, shameless plug there for the book. And so also want to add here too, related to the book, we always record these episodes ahead of time. And so this one's releasing on the 20th of June, but we are actually recording in April. And this weekend, the Furnace of Leadership Development is being featured at the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books held at UCLA campus out in California, which typically draws 150,000 people to this. So I'd like to publicly thank my publishing consultant, Susie Schaefer from Finishing the Book Publishing, who reached out to me and offered me this opportunity. But
Yeah.
let's get back to our topic. So the leaders who are developing other leaders, people will follow them because they see the unselfishness in that person and they want to help, they want to learn.
AKA you.
Well, thank
I'm
you.
a bit biased, but it's true. So one of the quotes in your book refers to these true leaders, true leaders. Warren Buffett said, "Someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago."
Yeah, it takes time. It it takes time. And I was thinking about this yesterday afternoon, the people that have impacted my life, and some of them are no longer here. They've died throughout the years, but it takes that time. And the example that I gave in the book was coffee and a coffee tree. You and I, we love coffee. Matter of
Yep.
fact, we've got our coffee right here on the desk with us. It can take 3 to 4 years before a new tree will produce the cherries containing the coffee bean.
Wow.
And then once the crop is harvested, it could take another year handpick the cherries. Then once a year, I should say, once a year they pick the cherries. So there's a lengthy process just to get the cherries picked. And then before we even get it into our cup, it's dried, it's milled, it's sorted, it's roasted, it's shipped. So in reality, the coffee that we are drinking today, that tree that this came from may have been planted 5 years ago before we are reaping the benefits of that. And it's the same thing with
Wow.
leadership and developing other leaders is, hey, people, I hope that you're mentoring someone, and I hope you're pouring your life into someone else. If you're not, ask yourself, what's preventing me from doing this? You say, well, Rick, I just don't know how to do that. Hey, that's why I'm here, folks. Reach out to me, go to my website, fireofficerleadershipacademy.com, and learn how I can help you through coaching, because it's important that we mentor others. And that mentoring is not just showing someone how to operate a piece of equipment or how to perform a particular procedure. Well, yes, that is it, but we are talking about mentoring and developing leaders. And that is a process just like what we described here with the coffee.
Yeah. And there is a need to genuinely connect with people. Like I just feel like that is something that
Mhm.
people are really wanting right now, is
Yeah.
that genuine connection.
Yeah, you're right, Emily. Let me ask you this question here. If you are not connecting with someone, are you really listening to what they have to say to you?
No.
Why not?
Well, probably because your brain is thinking about a million, well, at least mine does, think about a million other things and isn't truly interested in the conversation of the other person.
Mhm. If you don't trust that person, is
Mhm.
there going to be a connection?
No,
If that person doesn't have integrity, is there going to be a connection?
no,
If that person is building a following and they're manipulating people, is there going to be a connection?
no.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Making a connection with people is something else that takes time as well. And, as a battalion chief, I could not just breeze in and breeze out of a fire station and think that I was connecting with the people that were on my shift. No, what would I do? I'd show up, the crews would pour me a cup of coffee, and I'd sit there and I'd talk just like what I have here. For those who are listening only, I'm holding a cup of coffee in my hand, and I would take the time to listen to them, to get to know them, find out, hey, what do you want here? What do you like? What don't you like about the department? What do you like, don't like about the shift? What could we be doing differently? What would you like to train on? What would you like to see me do? Those type of things, they build a connection. Hey, what do you got going on, in your life? Yeah. Hey, heard that your wife is pregnant. How far along is she? Yeah. And be genuine.
Yeah.
I cannot stand it when someone just says, "Hey, how are you doing?" Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. All right. Bill, how are you doing? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sally, how are you doing? Uh-huh. 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 Yeah. I've been in situations like that, and then I've been told later on that the person asking those questions was completely, totally disingenuous. Now, maybe they did not think that they were being disingenuous, but that's how they came across to the rest of us. Like that this is just a checkbox for you. So you could go back and say, "Yep, I hit this one here. I connected with the people. I asked the standard 'How are you doing?' question." But it takes more than that. And it's an effort, effort. I am an introvert, Rick, and I really don't like to talk to people. Hey, listen, if you're going to be in a leadership position, you need to get over that. I used to be quite an introvert myself, but you
Yeah.
must get over that to connect with people. I write blogs, and one of my blogs that I've written is about bridging the gaps. And I use the example of the Benjamin Franklin Bridge connecting Camden, New Jersey with Philadelphia. Here not too long ago on March 26th, prior to 0130 in the morning, the Francis Scott Key Bridge connected two land masses across the Patapsco River in Baltimore County, Maryland. And then the container ship, hit it, and the bridge came down. Vehicles went into the water, and that bridge is still in the water right now as we're doing this recording, as the salvage work continues.
I take
But
years to rebuild.
it could take years to rebuild. Hey, that's the same thing that happens in relationships.
Mm,
It could take years to build the
yeah.
relationship. Some people it happens sooner than that, but then bang, something happens and that relationship is done. And also connecting with people, we must realize there's some people that don't want to connect, period. They flat out don't want to connect. And they're ones I described in my book as the 3D. D is in Delta, 3D people, disgruntled, dissatisfied, and disenchanted
You you
individuals.
probably don't even want to connect with those people.
Not really, no.
So, with that said, let's return to the people who do want to connect, the people who do want to grow personally, professionally, and biblically.
Yes, I like that biblically aspect of
Hmm.
it. And folks, Emily and I are not shying away from the fact that we are believers in Jesus Christ. And we're not going to hide that, but we're also not going to be shoving that down people's throats. But we believe that we have a duty. And I don't think a duty is a bad word. It's not a four-letter cuss word, to mentor people, to help people that are coming up behind us and people who are alongside us. I've seen you do that, Emily, with one of your friends. You've come alongside her, you've encouraged her, you listen to her, you talk to her. The two of you have a fantastic connection.
Yeah.
And one of the key points to that fantastic connection is you want to help her, you're willing to help her, and then on her side, she wants to help and she's willing to get the help.
Yeah.
That's
That's the
that's
key.
that's a key.
Yeah.
That is an absolutely big deal right there.
Yeah.
Those people that desire to enhance their leadership knowledge, skills, and abilities.
Yeah. So, in your book, The Furnace of Leadership Development, you wrote, building relationships and developing others necessitates, got it right, nurturing, cultivating, and an investment in time. And I
Yes.
like the nurturing because I think that ties into the word that keeps coming back to my mind is that you have to, not only with genuine connection, but you have to show that you care.
Hmm.
You care for that person. You care to connect. You care to know what's going on with them
Yeah,
and how to help
absolutely.
them.
Absolutely. I was in a men's Bible study this morning, and one of the men that was in there, and we were talking about fathers. And at the end, and he specifically asked the question, I'm curious, what do you think of your fathers? What kind of an impact that they have
Mm,
in your life? And that was an interesting question.
yeah.
And so he listened to us, and I think there were about eight of us, maybe nine, 10 in the room. And at the end he got done and he said, listen to what you guys were saying is, and we're referring to a book that we've been going through also called Manhood. And he said, in reading in the book, he said, the author talks about legacy and listening to you guys is what you're saying. Several of you with your fathers, they left a legacy. And it makes me wonder, hey, am I leaving a legacy, for my kids?
Mm.
Well, that comes into that nurturing aspect as well. And hey, folks, you don't have to be a father or a mother to be nurturing somebody else.
Yeah.
But we need to listen to the people that are around us. Again, these are learned skills. A communication is a learned skill. Mentoring, developing other people, they are learned skills. Some folks pick that up faster than others. But I want to come back to that one word, time. That last part of the sentence said an investment in time. It is time. It's time. One of the great things about working in the fire department was our shift schedule. And I had time to be out into the fire stations. And I often met with the people from my shift and other shifts and even other fire departments off duty, and we'd go get a cup of coffee or breakfast. That's a connecting. Now I'm going to cut off you folks out there who say, well, I don't work in the fire department, and so I don't have time to, spend with the people who are working for me. And I'm sure enough not going to do that on
Mhm.
my days off. Well, you'll sow what you just reaped right there with that type of a mentality.
Yeah.
And I've said this in the past to people, and I look back in through history. And Napoleon, the Emperor of France, had time to invest in his officers out in the field. Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of England during World War II, had time to spend with people. General George S. Patton Jr., the commanding general of the Third Army during World War II, would go out to the front lines where they're getting shot at. General Mad Dog Mattis from the Marine Corps had time to go crawl out in the fighting holes when he was a division commander with people. So be careful with that. Hey, I don't have time to spend with people excuse on that one. But it takes time. Now,
Mhm.
from the nurturing and the cultivating aspect, as we're getting pretty close to wrapping up this episode, I'm referring to one of John Maxwell's books, and he's got great information here, and he's called Developing the Leaders Around You. And in the book, I believe it's on page 97. Let me see if I've got that one right for you people who have the book or are interested in buying the book. Nope, I don't. I thought I had the page number. Sorry about that. But there's a table in the book, three columns: nurturing, equipping, and developing.
Look, Carrie, then that
Yes,
word.
under that
Oh.
nurturing column, we have care, focuses on the need, relational, service, maintains leadership, establishing, helping, need oriented, what they want, a desire on both parts, a
Mhm.
desire on us and a desire on them. There's little or no growth that has occurred that we now are going to move forward with that. And then under the equipping, we're training for work. Focuses on the task. It's transactional. There's management that's involved there. It adds leadership where previously nurturing maintains leadership. Where we establish a nurturing, now we're releasing them. We're teaching. It's skill oriented. It revolves around a lot of, well, what does the organization need here from this? There's short term growth. But then we get into that final column of developing. That is now where we're training, excuse me, we're training for personal growth. The focus is on the person versus the focus was on the task when we are equipping someone. And now we're looking at transformational. There was transactional and transformational. Now, if you're not sure what the two of those are, transactional is exactly what it says. You go to work, we went to work for a 24-hour shift, you get paid for a 24-hour shift. We work 216 hours in a pay period, you get paid for that. That's transactional. You know, you do something for me, then I pay you for
Mhm.
this. Whereas transformational is that internal change. And where we were using management aspects and equipment, we're now into the true leadership aspect of developing. And we multiply leaders in this. We empower, we mentor, it's character oriented. What do they need? The person that we are developing, what do they need? And there's artwork. There's artwork involved in this. There, the teaching somebody how to operate a piece of equipment is more science. But now when you're developing someone, that's art because we are
Yeah.
working with another human being, not human doings, human beings.
Yeah.
And there's long-term growth. So that's a great book there that Maxwell has, and I know I read that pretty quick. So if you wanted to take notes on those, you can replay this. So Emily, I think that's about all the
That's about.
time that we have for this episode. Do you have anything you'd like to add as we close?
I don't think so. I think that's a really good thing to chew on for people
Okay.
in the end.
All right. Well, we've mentioned this more than one time here during this episode, but a key part to development is mentoring and coaching. Go out there, visit my website, fireofficerleadershipacademy.com. Learn more about how I can help you in this area, how I can help you to become a better mentor, how I can help you to better develop other leaders and enhance your communication skills, your decision making abilities, and how to bridge those gaps.
Yeah.
And also, now as we wrap this up, Firehouse Talks with Jersey Rick, Igniting Leadership Excellence, is a production of the Fire Officer Leadership Academy. So, Emily and I would like to thank you for watching or listening. So, until the next episode, we'll see you later.
See you
Bye
next
bye.
time.